All right, hello again. Yep, today's the day. We're releasing Ventsim 6, so you can go right now if you want to download, watch the talk. But you can go to the website and download the software, and yeah, so everything I present here is available right now. Before I get into it, I just want to give a very quick shout out to the rest of the current development team. So Don Wallace, Craig Christensen, and Larissa Maguki, and it's my privilege to represent them here today and show their work. Okay, so basically I'm just going to demo the software. I've got a few things to go through. Some of these features are quite significant and others are little things, but some things you might be very excited about, some things maybe not so much. Hopefully there's something there that you like. All right, so I'm going to start by going through some of the new graphics. So hopefully I can switch out to the software. There we go. So Ventsim 6.0.10 is now out there and in the wild. So the first thing you'll notice is we have a new logo and some new default colors in the background. So that's nice. What else have we got? Well, I'm just going to zoom in and have a bit of a look. And oh my God, what is that? There's some sort of problem. Oh no, this is a new feature. We have airway textures. If I zoom in here, you can see we've got, instead of that flat airway image that you're used to, we've got a texture on the airway. So this is maybe something you like or you don't. So we've got a little toggle here on the left. Up on the top left there, you can turn that off and on. And you're not stuck with this texture. Okay, so I'm going to open up the presets. Close that. So you can actually customize that texture. And you can assign a texture to individual friction factors. So this one here, which one is this? This is the very rough blasted preset. So I can come here. I can go across to here and click on that texture button here, and it's going to open up this gallery. And we've got a whole lot of different textures that you can apply. So the current one is this sixth one here, which is just sort of a rocky surface. And there's all sorts. So you've got various textures. If I go down far enough, you'll get to lots of different types of rock. But then we have paneling, wood even, and various ducting materials. And even some elongated textures for ducts. So this is something that, there's a few features like this that, these are ideas that we've come up with or that have been suggested, and we've implemented them, and we're not exactly sure what the reaction will be or what you'll do with them. And so this is one where, it's kind of up to you, the users, to work out what you do with it. So in this case, I'm going to say, I had that number 5 there. I'm going to go with something different. Click OK. And I'll click OK, and you'll see this texture on the left here update. Do something different. And you can also you'll see there's another option on the right there, adjust the texture size. Okay, so basically what that means is that it'll change the repetition of the texture according to the friction factor. So you could actually apply the same texture to every friction factor, but then they'll all look different because they'll scale differently on the different friction factor size. So if I change that to there, that's going to adjust slightly. Okay, so that's a pretty big visual element that we've introduced. It's a cosmetic thing, but I think these things are, I think, are quite important. So a big function of the software is basically showing your work to other people and explaining decisions. That's really what one of the big uses of the software is. And I think these features, which kind of help contextualize, visualize things better, they're I think it's a big part of what makes the software useful. Okay, what else? In terms of new graphics, I've got other small things. So here I've got we've had this this drawing tool for a while, where I get a guide on the airway. So it's telling me the length of the new airway and the angle. I can intersect another airway, and now it's giving me the angle on the intersected airway as well as the lengths of the new airways being created from that intersection. More graphics on the left here. We've got this little drop down now on the arrows. So if I open that up, I can now color the arrows by air type, primary layer, or a secondary layer. So I'll try that. Open up my air types. So this is just another way of getting more information in your viewer. So now my arrows are a different color. So that's giving me just more information. I can actually see my different air types, even though I've got a different color on the actual airways. Okay. I'm going to go on to a few new UI features. So probably the biggest one here that you'll notice is if I create some errors. So what I'll do, in this model here, I have a tunnel type defined on my decline. Okay, this one here. So a good use of the tunnel types is to define limits on the velocity of the decline. So I'm going to just put in some values here. So minimum and maximum velocity on the decline. I'm going to simulate, and now I've got some errors. All right, so my velocity on this part of the decline is not within my preferred range, and so I've got an error. But you'll notice this is different to what you're used to. So basically, the big change we've made is you can group the errors together. So previously, this is the type of warning that can potentially come up a million times. Now that's all compressed in these categories. So in this case, I've got 65 airways. Outside of that range is 65 warnings, but it's all readable because everything is collapsed in these categories. Now this is good because, I mean, something that often comes up with this sort of tunnel type warning, and I know it comes up in training, and sometimes you're in a development phase of your model, you're still building it, and you've got parts of the mine that aren't properly simulated. So you're getting lots of warnings and you don't really want them. They're getting in the way, and you might actually go and one solution is to turn the tunnel type warning off. But you don't really have to do that anymore. So you can just leave it there, and all of those warnings are contained in the category. And this is nice because it stops this sort of thing. So I'm just here creating another warning, a different one. So I've got a restrictive fan now. So previously, this sort of thing could get lost if you've got lots of other types of errors going on. Okay, and again, another feature that may find some use, we'll see, is this colouring option. So we've got this button here, I can click there, and it's going to colour my errors by the current colour on the airway. So you could switch the colour to air type, so that'll tell you on what air type that warning is occurring on. So again, this is something that I'm not sure how people will use it. It could be that you're interested in this particular warning in relation to higher or lower velocities. You could colour this by velocity, and it'll tell you it will give you a feel of where that error is occurring, on what types of airways it is occurring. Okay. So one modelling error that sometimes comes up is that people are using the infinite blockage tool, infinite blockage to model a bulkhead. And as numerous people have said, that's not always the best thing to do because an infinite blockage is usually pretty rare. I think part of the blame for that is on us because we've had this tool here, the block tool, has always given you that, that infinite blockage as the most accessible option. So now you can basically open that up and you can change that. So you might change that permanently to block draw point. So now when I use my block tool, I can add whatever resistance I want rather than that infinite blockage resistance. We've also made better ways to make activity tracks. So previously you had to create an activity track, you would have to go select your airways that are making part of that activity track, open the activity track form, add the airways. So we just streamlined that a little bit. So now it's part of the measuring tool. So I can come here, there's a new measuring tool here, add new activity track. So let's say I've lost it. So I'll click on the top of this decline. I'll go all the way down to the bottom. And when I'm ready, I can just click here. And that's going to create a new activity track for me with all the airways on it. And then I can go and put whatever activities I want on that activity track. And it's just to streamline that process. And there's another option for that in the draw tool. So if you've made the selection, you can come here to the draw tool and it'll create the activity track in the same way. Okay, I keep having to remember them all. All right, stage switching. Normally when you switch the stage, you've got to come here and got the drop down. Now we just flick between stages really easily with these two buttons. Okay, some feedback we get is around getting data out of the model. So in this model here, I've got a few advanced message boxes. Okay. So advanced message boxes are reporting information, simulation data being constantly updated. So I've got two in this model. I've got one reporting the maximum velocity in this decline. And I've got another which is giving me information on the two fans. So if you're writing a report about your model, then you're not going to use Ventsim to do your graphs. You might be using something like Excel. So at some stage, you're getting information out of your model and into Excel. So we're seeing more and more models now that have a lot of these message boxes, and basically we've made it easier to get the information out of them. So if I open up, say, this one. So we just rejigged this form a little bit, made that these advanced options a bit more obvious. They were hidden away a little bit for a while. So basically now I've got a copy button outside of that message box. So I can click here to copy, and that's going to copy the message. Onto my clipboard, and I can paste that into Excel. So that gives me the text output of the message box, the original text output. It also gives me the calculated values, so the average quantity, and in this case I've selected maximum velocity and average mass flow. It gives me those. And it also gives me all that information on the individual airways. Okay, this message box is reporting the velocity maximum on 127 airways, and so I've got all that data now in my Excel spreadsheet. That's nice because that means that I can copy paste from there. I'm going to get the data in the same format, and so as I change things in Simulate, I can always come back here and update anything I've already got set up relying on that data. The other button we've added there is a shortcut to get to the stage graph. So that might be better demonstrated on the other one. The other message box which is reporting information on the fans. So if I click the stage graph, previously the stage graph was hidden away in the tools menu of the edit box. So what that's done, it's basically created a stage graph out of that message box. So when you think about it, they're kind of doing similar things, the stage graph and the message box. And this was basically taken the same airways that were in the message box and plotted the values you're getting over the different stages. So if you're using your stages to represent different years in your mine life, you can basically very quickly get a plot of how whatever parameter is changing over time. And there's also a copy to clipboard button here to get that information into a repeatable format in, say, Excel. So as we've done this, we've realized there's probably more potential here for the stage graph, and ultimately what we'll want to have is exactly the same kind of functionality in the stage graph, where you can get a maximum value or an average or a sum. It's kind of default. This stage graph is looking at two airways. So there's two fans on two different airways. And it's basically the only option is to add up the values. So if you see here, it says the sum quantity and the sum fixed cost. So that's something we'll bring in soon. Question that often comes up in support is someone might be investigating this fan, and they can see from the fan info box that the flow there is 117.9. Let's say 118.7 now, after I resimulate. Okay, now, some people prefer to use data boxes. This is a quick and easy way to to highlight important information. So if I come here and look at airflow, I've now got a message box reporting to me the airflow on that airway. But if I look at my fan, my fan info box is reporting 118.7 meters cubed per second, and it looks like there's a bit of a problem there. Now what's happening is that the data box has always followed the data text position buttons, which are down here on the bottom left of the screen. So this is controlling where on the airway the data is taken from. So the default one is the middle button, which is basically reporting an average value on the airway. If I go to the first button, it's doing the entry. The mid-entry, which is immediately before the icon. The fourth one is immediately after the icon. And the last one is the exit. So you can see that data box is following that text position. So whatever I've got there, that's the value being reported in the data box. So basically what we've done is introduced a way to pin that data source. So you can see the option there is follow text position. I'm just going to change that to mid-entry. So now it's reporting 118.7, and that mid-entry one is actually the flow quantity that the fan reports. And now that's not going to change. That's just going to keep reporting from that same position. So just added reliability to that data box information. Okay. We've made some big improvements on the filtering tool. So if you're used to working with big models and you've run into problems doing binding, you may have had to wait a long time for it to finish. So we've come up with some big speed improvements there to the binding. So you're going to find this runs a lot faster now. If that's still not fast enough, we've now added an option here, which is an option to suspend the undo. Okay, so that's something that can add to the speed of this binding, is that it's basically saving information about all the airways you're changing, so you can hit the undo button. So if you use that option, it'll prompt you to save the model. It'll run a lot faster. You just won't be able to undo it. Also new on this form is the Simplify References tool. So this is basically going to let you simplify 3D reference graphics. So these can sometimes be quite heavy, take up a lot of space, and we've now got a pretty simple way just to update them. So if I keep simplifying, you can see this is just getting a bit simpler and simpler. This one's not very big, so I probably don't need to do that, but you may, if you're working with 3D shapes, they'll often be very, very detailed and you need to reduce them. So we've got that in Ventsim now. Okay, now I've done a rejig of this contaminant UI on the edit form. And so the major thing there is the changes to the dust simulation. So this is becoming more interest in this recently. So we've done some work there. You can see there's this drop down here for the dust method. So the concentration value, this is the basic option. So generally, what option you use here is going to depend on what data you've got. If I do this one, concentration, that's if I've got a sensor or something that's reporting a concentration. I can put that in, and that's directly going to simulate that. It's going to fix that concentration and simulate the results from that. That's not always the data you're going to have. You might have a volume of air that's coming in at a certain concentration. That's an option. This is going to inject 500 litres a second of air, which has a concentration of 200 milligrams per metre cubed. Or you might want to do a straight mass injection. So this will add 500 milligrams per second of dust. But the one we've got here is profile. So this is the new one. So what this is going to do is basically it's going to ask us to pick a dust source profile. So I'll open that, and I've got 3 here. A concentration profile and 2 injection profiles. So what are these? So this is a new preset option. I'll click on the little spanner here to shortcut to the dust profile presets. Okay, so if I click here on this little graph, this is a dust profile editor. So what this is letting us do is configure the concentrations of different dusts at this location. So we're getting now more information on dust profiles from vehicles or from other sources. So we're not just dealing with one size of dust, but many. So you can set up a concentration or a mass that you're injecting. And if I apply this profile to this airway, I'll apply that and simulate. Okay, I'm getting a dust concentration through the model. But I'm also getting, I've got this little graph tool that comes up now. I can click on an airway and it's going to report the concentration at every dust, at every dust size on that airway. So what it's really doing, it's running many dust simulations for each particle size rather than just a single one that you configure in the settings. And so each of those dust sizes is being calculated according to its, its settling its own settling mechanism. So they're all basically running parallel. And so it lets you look at the variation of that dust profile through the model. I've set that up that concentration on the airway. You can also assign that dust profile to vehicles. If I look at my heat and moisture diesel presets, there's a new column there, the dust source. So I could say that this truck that I've got in this model has this source attached to it. So wherever I use this truck in the model, I can put it on an airway or on an activity track. It's going to generate that dust and put it into the model. So I've got 3 of those trucks on that decline. And so now I'm getting concentrations all along that decline. So that dust is now being distributed all along that activity track. One last thing we've done a bit of work on carbon emission reporting. So we've got some new properties in the energy category, reporting carbon production from fans, vehicles, and the heating. And we've even come up with a carbon emission tracker. It wants a heat simulation first. That's going to report what's in the model, what carbon it's producing, and you can tweak that according to the particular carbon intensity of the electricity that you have access to. So that's a bit of an entrance into Ventsim 6. There's, like I said, there's things there that you might like or want to switch off. It's up to you. A few of these things, we're going to see what you do with them, particularly the airway textures. And so we're excited to see where that goes. So I'd welcome you to download it, have a go, and let us know what you think. So I just want to round it out by saying that we do really rely on feedback, and we always welcome hearing from people with any issue they're having, or very tough questions or very simple ones as well. It's really great to see what people are doing with the software and getting that insight. So don't hesitate to contact us with anything you want to talk about. Okay, thanks for your attention. Are we taking questions or? Yeah, okay. Thank you.